Give me 1 second. In today's topic, capitalism versus Marxism, which is best for the future of America? In my opinion, based upon the success of America, I think capitalism is better. But we're going to objectively look at capitalism, Marxism, socialisms, and communism, right? We're going to read those down objectively, and then I'm going to go into my opinion. Give me one moment. There's a good chance I might have to cut off the live chat because there's a lot of dumbass subscribers subscribe to my channel. I don't care if you unsubscribe or you do subscribe or whatever, but I'm just tired of trolls. And then it throws me off of what I'm going to say. But anyway, black folks, black folks in America, right? Marxism and socialism has infected the mentality of black folks in America. And I think, in my opinion, and it's not even really opinion, it's the facts. Marxism, um, Marxism is the reason why a lot of niggas in the black community is broke. Socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it. And it's not that capitalism is bad. It's just that black folks don't study the game of capitalism and figure out how to play the game and then win. All right. And then because of capitalism, somehow it got attached to, uh, like patriarchy, capitalism got attached to white men. Black folks just choose Marxism. What's going on? So those of you coming into the chat, respect my channel, click the like, share, and subscribe, respect the topic, talk about the topic, right? So because patriarchy, like capitalism, is somehow tied to white men, they'll say that capitalism is part of white supremacy. So black folks, they'll choose Marxism, not because Marxism is better, but because it goes against capitalism, and capitalism is attached to white men and white supremacy. And what black folks don't realize is that capitalism is the best system, right? The thing with capitalism is that it puts the power into the individual instead of the state government control of how you operate. Whereas opposed to Marxism, somebody's in control of your wealth distribution, doing direct control of that. Right? And the only reason why black folks and with Marxism, how it's being said to you, it sounds good. And we're gonna go into it, right? Just give me 1 second. Um but and in my opinion, with Marxism, right? I believe it's why a lot of third world countries are broke. Because when I look at places like Jamaica, um, places like Jamaica, or in the UK, or those third world countries in the Caribbean, there's a lot of Marxism preached there. So, like in Jamaica, right, you have the middle class, which is more conservative and patriarchal. They're more capitalism because it's competition, right? But in the ghetto of Jamaica, they're more socialist and Marxist, and they're more broke. You have a mother They got 5 kids, but it's crazy. So I noticed that in a lot of low-income houses, same thing with Black America, in a lot of low-income housing places, it's a lot of that equalitarian socialism, you know, uh, yeah, socialism, where which communism is like this, right? Communism is where what they do is they take money from the wealthy people or the people that's working and give it to people that's not working. So they give the so it's not, so that now the people, it's like welfare, WIC, EBT programs like that, right? And now because those people who are not working to get their own, they're dependent upon the government to give them things. You have to type that better, Caddis Booker. Huh? Right? So, but we're gonna break it down today. Give me 1 second here. And it seems to me that Black Americans are doubling down on, or at least for the most part, um, Black Americans that we see on social media and TV, like the Roland Martins, like they're doubling down on the Democratic plantation. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad to see that Black Americans will fight harder for leftist, wokist, or democratic principles or policies when those policies go directly against them, right? Why do I say that? Woke or things like DEI, they don't really benefit or haven't been benefiting black men. DEI has been benefiting like black women because black women they have like a double minority. She's a female and she black, right? Black men still have to compete over jobs, so they're not going to give most black men like DEI most black men, especially if they overqualify or they qualify for the job or they could do a good job, right? Um, then you have policies on the left that's anti-masculinity. So I don't know why do you have black men like fighting for and black men should have the right to say, yo, I don't like homosexuality. I don't fly for that. I don't like LGBT. I'm not for I'm not for LGBTism. I don't want that a part of my community. If you say that black men is the head of the household, no white liberal or white person, period, but especially a white liberal, should go up to a black dude and say, why don't you accept LGBT into your community? As a man or as a patriarch, which really and truly, they don't want black men to be a patriarch. They want black men to be a provider slave, right? But black men, if he's the head of his household, he's the patriarchy of his household. So whatever his mandate is, that's what it is. So black men should be able to say, no, we don't accept homosexuality in our community. And if you're a black person and you're homosexual, you cannot be in our community. You got to go somewhere else. Black men should have the right to say that. Every other group of men, whether it be Asians, Arabs, Indians, whatsoever, they can dictate how their community is to be ran, right? Now, the reason why, because I want to get something that's popped in my head, so forgive me on my ADHD, because I have thoughts that's just bouncing around in my brain a lot of times. Um, the reason why, and the left, they're very smart. You got to give them this, right? So now, what they do is they'll label a man defining how he wants to run his community as him being controlling and toxic masculinity. So it's like if I'm a boss at a job and I say I want my employees to do this A, B, C, and D. What the left has done is said, well, that boss at that job, he's being toxic or controlling. Now, here's the thing about that. Leadership is controlling because when you go to want to work for that organization or that group, or you want to be part of that nation or community, you have to abide by the rules and the regulations that that community sets forth. And you're submitting to that community, right? So, what the feminism has done, right, is they've phrased or framed leadership the way how traditional men used to lead as being toxic and controlling. And traditional masculinity, it says Christian principles, God-like principles. No, I'm not going to let my woman walk outside the house naked. No, I'm not going to. No, you can't go out here and be a 304. No, you're going to move how I say you to move. Right? The reason being is that you have women on the left that don't want structure. They want to be chaotic. That's why it's very dangerous to pander to women's chaotic nature of them. Because see, at least with men, we're more logical. We can control our chaos. We can set up things in place to control our chaos. When it comes to women, because typically they outnumber us, when they get chaotic, it can be very dangerous and out of control. That's why you can't pander to them. And that's why traditional men is being phrased by feminists as being toxic masculinity. Because if you read the Bible and you read a lot of the attributes that a woman is supposed to be like, and you realize that the men are supposed to enforce God's law and enforce what a value for the woman is according to the Bible and according to the Word of God, that's why they attack in traditional men and saying it's toxic masculinity or they're controlling. But on the flip side, a woman saying she wants a dude to be a provider slave and cater to her ego and all the other stuff, that can be looked at as controlling, but it's not. And that's because of the gynocentric environment we live in. And I want to see if I can make a connection between Marxism and matriarchy and communism. Because a lot of things in the Marxism and communism is, it seems to me, in my opinion, from my perspective, it's a lot more feminine. It's more matriarchal, in my opinion, right? Because the idea of socialism is to make everything equal and fair for the worker, right? As opposed to capitalism, where that fits more masculinity, you got to compete and make the best man win. Whereas opposed to socialism, it's making it fair and it's giving you something. And with women, that you give women something. See what I'm saying? With men, we have to go get what we want. Or we have to go eat what we delete. Can't say the KILL word on YouTube. But let me go into, first of all, let's go into the history of Marxism, because what I've been researching is that Marxism, first is Marxism, then it's socialism, then it's communism, right? So let's look into the brief summary of Marxism by Karl Marx, which I think Karl Marx is a loser, which is why he came up with that theory, right? But at the same time, right, capitalism in the UK. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Um, we do this here. Okay. Like this. Marxism summary. We're gonna look at it objectively. I'm gonna read all three different isms and then look at it objectively, and then I'm gonna give my opinion. Marxism summary. Then you got neo-Marxism. Then you got classical Marxism. Then you got post-Marxism. There's so many different Marxist versions of it. But we're going to read the main one. Marxism is an economic political theory that examines the flaw inherent in capitalism. Marxist theories were influential in the development of socialism, which advocates for the shared ownership of the means of production by workers. Okay. Shared ownership of the means of production by workers. Now, that sounds really good. Which capitalism promotes that. So he's critiquing capitalism and saying there's a flaw with it, right? But capitalism promotes private ownership. This one, he's saying he advocates for workers to have shared ownership of the means of production by workers, right? But capitalism, you can be an individual and produce something. So I don't know how. So okay, right here. In a nutshell, Marxism argues that the political and social change is driven by class struggle. Moreover, class struggle can also be found in the international system in the exploitation of the South by imperialistic norm. Now, what's a class? Class is, say you have king, queen, high class, middle class, working class, poor class. That's the class, right? Now, what people don't understand is you have an opportunity to get up from poor class to working class to middle class to high class, or to you're probably not going to get to king or queen, right? But you can at least work to high class. That means that if you want to get to these two different tiers of class, you have to get off your ass and compete and work towards something. You can't be mediocre if you cannot be mediocre. Like if you want to be high class, you cannot be mediocre. You have to compete, which benefits more men, right? Because men have those competitive traits. And with men, when we compete, the better we get. You understand? So that's what a class is. Now, what Karl Marx is saying, he's saying there's a struggle. Can also be found in the international system in exploitation of the South by imperialistic North. Now, that's how they're linking capitalism to what white men have done, right? Because what white men have done is that they have gone and colonized and conquered and enslaved people, right? But that, which is funny enough, is that that's not something that's unique to white dudes. That's just the nature of man. That has nothing to do with capitalism. China is communist, but they have the same imperialistic mindset. There are a lot of Fidel Castro. I think he was either socialism or communist, but he had that same imperialistic mindset. You know what I'm saying? The strong is always going to try to conquer and bully the weak, but it takes other strong people to stop the bully. You understand what I'm saying? So he's linking. Now let's look what imperialistic is. The Japanese were imperialistic. Let's look up the definition of that. All right. Give me 1 second. Um, the thing with communism, or Marxism, let's go with that, right? Because Karl Marx, he's critiquing capitalism. And you got to remember, Karl Marx is from Germany, and a lot of people in UK, they're greedy. Like, so you got to think about the Industrial Revolution, right? Where you had factories and mass production, and um, And not to mention a lot of those people in the UK that are all for socialism, they were the tyrants of the world at one point. Like, you had a tyrant over there with the mustache, over there in Germany. You had Stalin. You had a lot of like mass the leaders from the UK. So now, if Karl Marx is in the UK, that's probably why those European settlers broke away from the British Crown to come settle in America. Probably running away because remember the British, let me see. I think in Britain they have a constitutional monarchy that sounds similar to communism, where the constitutional monarchy in Britain, they have the power and they can assign power to individual statesmen. Like, for example, you have a governor general, right? And the governor general, he's basically acting under the influence of the queen. That's a problem because the power is not really in the people. The power is really in a monarchy or a family, and that family can assign power to people to push their agenda. Whereas opposed to America, where we're a democratic republic, where the power is within the people's vote. Just like with this election we saw. And then you have three branches of government: executive, judicial, and something else. So we have checks and balances over here in America. No one position of government holds all the power. You feel me? Whereas opposed under a constitutional monarchy where one family has all the power in that into that country, right? They could do what they want with the people. This is why over the before the election over the COVID-19 thing that kicked off a couple of years ago. You saw. I wonder what Australia's government is on, what kind of policies Australia's government is under. But this is why you saw a lot of. This is why there's strict gun laws over there in the UK. You know what I'm saying? This is why they could do things to the people when they want to do it without being challenged. Because now your country is under the power of one family, one big family, as opposed to in America, it's just by the people. The people vote for who their leadership is. See what I'm saying? Let's go here. Like, for instance, the people in your local government, you vote for you can vote for your police chief, you can vote for your senator, you can vote for your councilman, you can even vote for your borough president. In New York, you have borough presidents. You have the borough president of Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx. You can vote for those too. So the people pick in America the leadership they want to lead them. As opposed to communism, you don't really pick that. It's being chosen for you, and then you got to just deal with that. You see what I'm saying? But let's get into it. Okay. What are the main characteristics of Marxism? Some of the most important ideas in Marxism are economic determinism, historical materialism, and the theory of class division of society and class struggle, the theory of base and superstructure, the Leninist theory of socialist revolution, and the theory of imperialism. It's all theories. What are the characteristics of Marxism? Marxism developed many theories along the way. Some of them revisionism, social democracy, reformism, the idea of revolutionary party, class consciousness, and many more. See, now Marxism, it has a sort of rebellious revolutionary base to it. That's why it's attractive, because most humans beings, especially with men, have a rebellious nature. All right. What is an example of Marxism? An example of Marxism is the Soviet Union, as well as the Cuban socialism and the Chinese state. All these socialist societies had Marxism, Leninism as their ideology. Oh shit, we're gonna get into it today with Marx, with this guy Karl Marx. Criticisms. Okay, they have whole videos on it. Shout out to those of you who are viewing the show. Click the like, click the share, subscribe. Respect the channel, respect my topic and what I wish to talk about. Speak to the topic that I'm talking about. And let's ride. Let's see. Uh, See if I can get it from here. Okay, let's look here. Marxism is a social theory that examines the history of humanity through different stages of development, ultimately leading to communism. It emphasizes the importance of economic factors in shaping human actions and behaviors, using dialectical interpretations of change. Marxism has various interpretations, and that's the problem. You got different people interpreting what Marxism is, right? So you don't have an objective set foundation, right? Including theories of class division and struggle, the role of labor in the human communities, social change determined by economic factors, and the reflection of material conditions and human consciousness. Overall, Marxism views social reality as a dynamic process characterized by the unity of opposites and the necessity of conflict for change and the legitimization of social order. Marxism is one of the most important social theories of modernity. It captures the history of mankind in the form of successive stages, from primordial stages to the final stage, which is communism. Really? Marxism is one of the most important social theories of modernity. It captures the history of mankind in the form of successive stages, from primordial stages to the final stage, which is communism. Development is largely linear in nature. Karl Marx considers human relations in context of historical development and relates them to the conditions of existence, both social and economic. The accepted principle of historical materialism attributed to the most important rank to economic factors, which is true, right? People, we consume and buy things. And as people, we live in a material world, right? We want things, we want to get things, right? So, if I want to buy a house, I need money to buy a house. Or say you want to do a barter and trade. If you want a pound of beef, I need water or flour. Or if I need, say, a crop of wheat, you might need some eggs, right? If you want clothes for the winter, from me, then I need to get I need to get weapons to go hunt. That's a trade system. That's an economic thing. That's materialism right there, right? And then Ving Rhymes' guns and Butter concept, where he talked about how people buy cars, clothes, and things that don't matter, that don't appreciate with value, right? But then again, a car can appreciate with value, or a car can provide you value, because if you buy a car, you can become an Uber driver. So that car may depreciate in value, but that same car can help you make money. That's economics, right? Um, Just keep reading. Marxism and social theory has occurred and continues to occur in many forms. Distinguished is several versions. See, Marxism has several versions, which differ significantly from each other. In the classical interpretation of Marx and Engels, Marxism has taken the theory of class division and class struggle In another interpretation, it refers to the concept of human proxies, postulating the need to consider social practices as integral component of human needs. This position implies a rejection of viewing man as passive object on the one hand, on one hand, and as a subject equipped with unlimited free will on the other. I want to read that again. So this version of Marxism or theory, Marxism is taken as a theory of class division and class struggle. In another interpretation, it refers to the concept of human proxies, postulating the need to consider social practices as an integral component of human needs. This position implies a rejection of viewing man as a passive object on the other hand, and as a subject equipped with unlimited free will on the other. So that's saying, in one instance, man is a passive object, right? Let me look, or let me see what that term means. I don't want to give the wrong thing to it. Let's look at what the objective thing is. Passive object. Okay, so passive objects could mean static objects which define contents, and atomic passive objects are static objects with contents defined by the user. These contents cannot be modified on processing or executable object. So, so now what that's saying is that their theory is that man is an object, is basically something static that doesn't progress, which is not true. Man is not a static energy; it's a forward-moving energy, right? Man has no other choice but to move, and man can modify himself depending on what's his competition in that environment. Like, say, for instance, you want to go hunt lions. You're going to create certain tools and protections so that when you're going to go hunt a lion, that you can hunt that lion. So, say, for instance, you're going to go hunt a lion, right? You're going to create certain tools and weapons and certain armor so you can protect yourself from getting bit or getting scratched by that lion where you're going to go to hunt. That's man evolving himself, right? So now to say, let me go back to it. To say in this thing that this position implies a rejecting of viewing a man as a passive object, but on the other hand, as a subject equipped with unlimited free will on the other. Which that is true, because man does have free will, right? A similar reading of Marxism focuses on the role and the importance of labor in the development of human communities. It is understood as the result of human activity and materiality of nature, and in somewhat narrow form. It is grasped as a process of labor or economic activity. In another interpretation, Marxism is understood as a theory of social change determined by economic factors. It takes the form of economic technology, the deterministic explanation. I don't know how to read that word. Explanation in Marxism becomes cultural materialism. In another, it takes form of structuralist Marxism combined economic institutions with those of political and ideology. Like, these are theories. And all of that was just said. That is in capitalism. Capitalism is about economic growth. Capitalism is about development of communities. You can develop communities under capitalism. Look at America. America is a capitalist society. Does not America have communities within it that get developed? Don't when in a capitalist society, when you go to your job and you make money, or those people in your community, they make money and they bring back that revenue to the community and develop their community from capitalism. You could do that all under capitalism. So let me read this. Capitalism has always been deemed by Marxists to be more progressive than earlier societies, given its role in shattering feudal bonds, developing forces of production, and providing new means of global communication and exchange. At the same time, Marx recognizes that capitalist development is written in the annals of mankind in letters of blood and fire, premised on previous ongoing rounds of violent primitive accumulation, which forcibly divorced the producer from her MP and substance so that the exploitative social relations between capital and free labor can be enacted. So that's saying that capitalism it created violence amongst people because of the competitive nature. But that's not capitalism. That's just nature. Nature's always going to be violent. Let me see what they mean by feudal bonds. Feudal bonds. See if it is what I think it means. Because now that's referring to that equalitarian society shit that typically you hear women preach about that. Feudal bonds were the relationships between lords and their vassals in medieval European feudal system. A public ceremony where a vassal pledged an oath to fealty to the lord. A piece of land, or fief, a piece of land or annuity or allowance granted to the vassal by the lord. So now they're saying that. Now I know what that sentence is saying. What they're saying is that capitalism, because it's more for the individual, you don't have to bow down to a lord. You don't have to bow down to a certain lord that's going to be in charge of you. Because now, with capitalism, the individual has an opportunity to compete and make money for himself. And he can eventually surpass that lord or have more money than that lord. As opposed to a feudal bond now, there's relationship with the lords and their vassals. Vassals could be, let me see here. So let me read this. Feudal bonds were important because they created enduring relationships that were beneficial to both the lord and the vassal. The feudal system allows societies to maintain a stable political structure even as centralized power declined. So like now, let me read this right. This is a better one. Feudalism, also known as the feudal system, was a combination of legal, economic, and military culture and political customs that flourished in medieval Europe. That could be done under capitalism too. America is a perfect example, right? The only thing with that is now, with capitalism, you can raise above. You can grow economic wealth within your individual self, and you don't really have to bow down to a feudal lord like that. You don't have to rely on a feudal lord to protect yourself, because as an individual, you have enough economic base to gather weapons, guns, home defense. You could get your own food because you have an economic base. Whereas opposed to a feudal lord, now you have to report to a feudal lord. You see what I'm saying? Like that's like where Japan and what you call Europe, medieval times, Vikings. So let me read this one right here. So now we're going into feudalisms, which I don't want to stray too far from the topic, and I might do a breakdown on this too. Look at this. The basis of feudalism: people had to pay for their protection. Money was scarce, but the noble was very willing to take the land instead. See what I'm saying? The former owner was allowed to use the land during his lifetime. At his death, it passed into the hands of his protector. Many nobles acquired more land than they could manage. They then began to grant land to tenants. Such land was said to be held in feud, and each holding was a fief. The tenant became a vassal of the lord and took an oath to follow him in war and perform other services. If a vassal failed to keep his promises, he was supposed to forfeit the land, and in time the fief became hereditary, passing usually to the vassal's oldest son. In theory, all land belonged to the king or emperor. He was the suzerain or overlord of the vessel who held land directly from him. Each of these tenants and chief parceled out most of his vast holdings to subtenants. He would then be suzerain over those to whom he granted fiefs. While remaining a vassal of the king, the subtenants in turn further subdivided the land. In addition to the persons farming a fief, a half dozen people might have rights in it. See what I'm saying? That right there, feudalism, that sounds more communistic right there, where everybody's under the rulership of the king and the king basically owns their property. Whereas opposed to capitalism, that's more private ownership. I can own my own house, right? I can own my own business. Only thing I have to follow is the law of the land. See what I'm saying? As opposed to now, if that feudal lord or that king decides to kick you niggas out of your land now, what? I don't know what a SAR is. I don't know what that is. You talk about some shit, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. So, feudalism is similar to communism or socialism, which is why Marxist is saying capitalism broke away from feudal bonds. That's why he's saying that. All right. Let me look up. There's some other things that I saw about. Let's look up socialism. Okay, let's look at this. This one right here. What is democratic? Oh, hold on. Let me go from the beginning. All right. Both socialism and communism are essentially economic philosophies, advocating public rather than private ownership. That's a problem. Because now, public ownership, right? Let's look up what public ownership is right quick. Public ownership. Public ownership, also known as state ownership or government ownership, is when a government or public body owns a company, industry, property, or asset instead of a private individual or corporation. Now, the problem with that is now, if that government becomes corrupted, like a feudal lord, right? They can shut down that company, or they can regulate that company and dictate to that company how they're to be ran, as opposed to a private company or private individual, right? They can run the company how they want to run it. Now, within America government, there's still laws that every company still has to follow by, right? So in New York City, say a standardized test, right? To pass a standardized test in New York, you have to get a passing of 60 or 70. But 60 or 70 above. But individual private corporations, say like a trade school, like say you want to go get your HVAC. Now, even though in New York it says that in order to get a passing score on a standardized test, you have to get above a 60 or above. A HVAC trade school will say, well, in order to pass our tests, you have to make a 80 or above. You got to get a passing grade 80 or above. But as long as it's above a 60, standardized, as the state is saying, right, it's good. But because the HVAC trade school is private now, they can say, no, we can raise that standard to 80. It's still following the guidelines of 60 and above, but they're just raising up their standard, right? So that's what a private company can do, right? But but people make it seem as if that a private-owned individual corporation is not bound by the laws of the state or the laws of the land. They are, right? It's just that a government doesn't own them. See what I'm saying? So that's what private versus public is, right? So let's go to the history. Especially in the means of production, distribution, and exchange of goods. In a society, both aim to fix the problems they see as created by a free market capitalist system, including exploitation of workers and a winding gulf between rich and poor. The only separation between rich and poor is competition. Let me see this. You said private is you're extorted to work for a private sector in order to pay your taxes and get resources. Yeah, but see, here's where your logic is flawed. Because for the past, what I don't know, 8 to 12 years, we've been under a democratic, socialist type of thing. Those are the ones that are taxing those private companies who put taxes on the worker. That's what a lot of people don't understand about America, right? Bill Clinton's NAFTA agreement pushed a lot of jobs overseas, a lot of those private corporations overseas, right? Those now private corporations took away a lot of jobs from the Americans, right? Then comes Obama and Joe Biden with their economic bullshit. Huh? No, you can't. In a capitalist society, you can work for yourself. You can open up a small business. You can open up your own corporation, right? Let me say this. Let me say what I'm saying, right? Because we've been Democrat, or the country's been ran by Democrats for the past Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Barack Obama was 8 years. Joe Biden was 4 years. That's 12 years. Before them, it was Bush. Before Bush, it was Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. Come to think about it. Joe Biden been having his hand in the damn presidential shit for too long, right? Because we've been on the democratic socialist, what you call socialist thing, right? Democrats, they're all about regulation and taxing. Remember, the Democrats were the ones that were taxing middle class and taxing these corporations, private corporations. If you're going to now taxing the middle class and these private corporations now, they're not going to be able to either A, hire you, the private citizen, right? Jobs are now overseas. So back before my time, huh? Give me one socialist thing they did. Are you in America or are you in some foreign country, bro? If you're not in America, then you can't speak on the American thing. If you're in the UK is known for dictators and angry dictators coming to kick y'all over and conquer y'all. And y'all can't do nothing about it. As a matter of fact, you talking. You talking. You talking. Let me look up what Australia. Who you talking about? America? Democrats have been socialists. Kamala Harris is pushing Marxism. Okay. Uh, Australia. Socialists. Socialism is in Australia. Australia is a representative democracy and a constitutional monarchy. See? Let's go look at somewhere else. UK. Socialist. Yes. I get it that you're saying that America is a capitalist country, but we've been having socialists or Joe Biden pushing socialists for the past however damn long he's been in party. Democratic America, democratic socialism, democratic socialism. The Democratic Socialists of America defines democratic socialism as a decentralized, socially owned economy and rejecting both authoritarian socialism and social democracy, stating capitalism is a system designed by the owner class to exploit the rest of us for their own profit. Which is funny is because socialism does that very same thing. Socialist is about public ownership, which give power to the government to own my residence and my money, and they're in power of what goods and what money's been distributed to the people. Uh, WIC, EBT, welfare, all of that is social programs that has been pushed in America for the past 60 years, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. Kamala, no, hold on. Joe Biden's social socialistic policies. All this money that Joe Biden is being sent out to Ukraine and these places, what is that? Hold on, let me see. Democratic social policies. See, now you trying to gaslight a nigga. I don't like when people gaslight people. The Democrats don't even know what they want to be. All right? Social democracy is a social, economic, and political philosophy within socialism that supports political, economic, and democracy gradualists. All right? And Kamala Harris, let me see something. I'm not about to read all this. I want to find something that gives you the direct policy. Cutting taxes for working families. Let me look up this. This is a rewarding work, not well. This is a socialist thing. A lot of people don't know that you have small business owners that are wealthy. So how you not, if you don't reward the wealthy will not reward the people that's working. The small business owners that are working, that are wealthy, they're going to be providing work and opportunity for the workers. The workers can then step their game up and then create a business for themselves, a private business for themselves. To any American with the in June, damn, I cannot read that word, and drive to make $1 million. President Biden says, great, just pay your fair share in taxes. A hedge fund manager or CEO should never pay a lower tax rate than a teacher or a firefighter. A company with $1 billion in profit should not pay $0 in taxes. A fair tax code is how we invest in things that make our nation strong, like healthcare, education, and clean environment, and the national defense. It's how we protect programs that Americans rely on, like Social Security and Medicare. It's how we build a powerful economy, reduce fiscal risk, and lead the world. Donald Trump is focused on rigging the game for his. So this is them. This is anti-Donald Trump right here, and I regret to read it. Now, let's talk about when they say they want to lower. They don't want to tax billionaire buddies. The less taxes those billionaires have to pay out, the more opportunity and businesses they can open without having to cut costs, which means more job opportunities for guys like me, working guys like me. And because of the hierarchy and class structure, I have an opportunity to raise my class. As opposed to what Joe Biden is saying, free healthcare and these things. If I'm able to make enough money at my job, right, I can buy my own health insurance. I can afford my own stuff. When you're taxing um, a billion-dollar CEO of a company, he's going to cut costs, which means less jobs. And on top of NAFTA, shipping jobs to China and other places. They're taking away jobs from the working class. The working class needs those jobs to make money to become middle class and even open up their own businesses. That's communism right there, right? Donald Trump is focused on rigging the game for his billionaire donors. Instead, he always puts himself and his rich friends first. In 2017, he enacted a reckless, unpaid for tax cut that overwhelmingly benefit the very wealthy and the biggest corporations. Let me tell you what a corporation is. LLC is a corporation. So if you're a trucker and you have an LLC, that's a corporation. So they're taxing you too. So if you're a trucker and you're making 6 figures a year, you're considered to be middle class or wealthy. So that's taxing you too. And then now you're giving money to Social Security and Medicare. Social Security and Medicare, that's for older folks that retired, right? And at the same time, when you're working for a job, there's money coming out your paycheck towards Social Security and Medicare. So why do you need to rely on taxing the wealthy if you're already working a job and they're already taking money out of your check going towards welfare, going towards Social Security and your Medicare? Trump, damn, there's a lot of shit I have to be working here. But I don't want to stray from the point. I don't want to let this guy take me off my square and shit. All right? Because you wanted to know what socialist policies America has run. Dude. Okay. So if you don't like your minimum wage job, either figure out a way. Hold on. And hold on. Who was the president for the past? Joe Biden has been in office as VP for the past since 1993 or 1994. Right? Obama was in office for 8 years. Joe Biden was, as a president, was in. Joe, America has been under Democratic regime for 12 years, my friend. So if you want to know why 60% of us are living paycheck to paycheck, it's because of the Democrats being in office and running the country, taxing wealthy people. So this is where economy takes place, right? If you're taxing billionaires or corporations that import food, that need the truck guys to import food to New York and these places, guess what? The local dollar store or the local grocery store, they're going to raise their top taxes to maintain their profit margin so they can stay afloat. When they raise the prices on your milk, eggs, and basic necessities, I now, the worker, have to spend more money than needed to buy basic clothes, food, and toilet paper because everything else is being taxed. So when you tax the bigger dude is going to find a way to cut and save money. If that corporation destroys can no longer operate, guess what they're going to do? They're going to cut workers. Or that company is going to go out of business and it's going to take away jobs from the working people. You talking about both parents have to work and it's still not enough? Well, look at bro. Your parents, if they're in their 30s and if they're in their 40s and 50s, they should not have been working or still be working a job at Shake Shack or McDonald's that 18, 20-year-olds should be working at. See, what's supposed to happen is when you're 16, 17, 18, and 19, and 20, you work those entry-level jobs. You then take what you then save up some money to go get you a trade skill, or you go to college to get a STEM, to go get into STEM. Then once you get into STEM now, or you become some kind of tech or some kind of field in your medical thing, or you get a trade, you raise your game up to either being a construction worker, a trade skill worker, or being something in technology or science. And you keep stepping up your game. You're not supposed to be still stuck at entry level. And like I said before, your parents would not still have to be working paycheck to paycheck if the economy wasn't fucked up. You don't get, like, LLCs are corporations. LLC. Corporation. Corporation. Or LLCs. Okay. New York recognizes many business forms, including the limited liability company, corporation, limited partnership, and sole proprietorship, and general partnership, and other less familiar forms. Every corporation in the United States is by default taxed as a C Corp, unless it has elected to be taxed as an S Corp. Instead, a single member LLC is by default taxed as a sole proprietor and a multi-member. LLC is taxed as a partnership unless it elects to be taxed as an S Corp. So now I gotta go study some business shit now. But a LLC is technically a corporation and is taxed as a small corporation. All right. Now let me go into this. Socialism emerged in response to extreme economic and social changes caused by the Industrial Revolution, and particularly the struggles of workers. Many workers grew increasingly poor, even as factory owners and other industry accrued massive wealth. Now, I could agree with you there, right? I can agree. I can see from that point of view where workers were getting poor as those factory earners and other industrialists accrued massive wealth. That's not capitalism. That's just greedy factory earners. That's just factory owners being greedy. That's not necessarily capitalism, right? You go back to the UK, most of the UK is built off of feudal lord and feudal lord principles. If you look up the history of medieval Europe, going back to the Vikings, the barbarians, all of those are feudal lord people. That's not capitalism. That's motherfucking greedy factory workers of the industrial age. In the first half of the 19th century, early socialist thinkers like Henry D. St. Now, what differentiate that time in UK and over here in America, there are rules and regulations in a capitalist society that they have to follow, right? The problem that I see in America is a motherfucker lobbying the government, which is why Trump was talking about draining the swamp, because there are a lot of corrupt officials, both on the Democrats and the Republican sides, that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not checking things that need to be checked, right? But if you look at a lot of the laws on the book, it's to prevent a lot of greedy people from doing what they're doing, right? Robert Owen and Charles Fourier presented their own models of reorganizing society along the lines of corporation and community, rather than the competition inherent in capitalism, where the free market controlled the supply and demand of goods. You know what a free market is? Let's look up what a free market is. Free market. A free market is nobody controls. So say if you have a Jordan sneakers and I come up with Air Yardies, I could go into that free market and create an Air Yardie. And supply and demand is based upon what the people want. If the people demand a certain type of sneaker, because of the free market, I, the person, can supply the demand based upon the free market that's dictated by me and you, the consumer. The consumer dictates the free market, bro. No. A free market is one where the laws of supply and demand provide the sole basis for the economic system without government intervention. A core tenet of free market is the idea of voluntary exchange, transactions in which buyers and sellers freely trade goods and service. That's what a free market is, bro. And in America, can businesses do whatever? Last time I checked, when you have a restaurant that's open, right? What you call those people? Those people got to go inspect your business and make sure that your business is up to certain clean standards. I forgot what those people are called. If you want to open up a charter school, there's certain rules for that charter school. If you want to open up a auto shop, there's certain rules and regulations you have for an auto shop to protect the people. So there's rules you could put in place to protect the free market and the people in it. But no, business cannot do whatever. All right. Let's read it again. A free market is one where the laws of supply and demand provide the sole basis for the economic system without government intervention. A core tenet of free market is the idea of voluntary exchange, transactions in which buyers and sellers freely trade goods and service. Buyers, me; sellers, the business. Now, guess what? I could go work for a corporation, make my money, because mind you, me working for that corporation, that's a fair exchange. That corporation needs workers like me to do a job. I, the worker, because there's laws to protect workers, labor laws to protect I, the worker, go and work, get money, and then go consume or buy goods from that free market. The people control the free market. Or if I want to, I could go start my own business or corporation privately. And there's no government dictating what I can and cannot do. If I see that I know that I can be a better furniture salesman, I can open up my own furniture store. I'm not restricted to work for one company. I can open up my own company and get my own workers. And because nobody's taxing me out the ass, I don't have to. I can hire workers, and I don't have to raise or I don't have to stifle the workers. The workers can get paid from me because I'm not being taxed, which does not require me to cut losses on anything. Right? Let's go here. What is a free market in simple terms? A free market is a type of economic system that is controlled by the market forces of supply and demand, as opposed to one regulated by the government controls. It is opposite on the spectrum to a command economy, where central government entity plans the factors of production and uses the resources and set prices. Go ask the Cubans how they feel about a government controlling their market and regulating them. Let me look up what a living wage is. Living wage. Living wage. A living wage is a minimum income required for a worker to afford basic needs like food, shelter, healthcare, and education. It's usually much higher than the minimum wage, which may not be enough to cover all living expenses. The goal of living wage is to ensure that employees can earn enough to live a satisfactory life and avoid poverty. That's not the responsibility of the corporation, bro. Again, if you got Joe Biden taxing the economy and raising the groceries prices and raising the cost of what you got to buy a home, right? Of course, the cost of the minimum wage is not going to be able to afford your cost of living because Joe Biden is fucking up the economy. Joe Biden is shipping jobs overseas. Joe Biden is raising taxes on the small mom and pop stores. Let me say this. How does America regulate corporation, big corporations? In America, big corporations are primarily regulated through antitrust laws, which aim to prevent monopolies and unfair business practices that harm competition, enforced by agencies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice. With key legislation including the Sherman Act and the Clayton Act, these laws prohibit actions like price fixing, market allocations, and mergers that could significantly reduce competition in the market. So this is what I'm talking about, where there are laws and regulations to stop the big companies that you're talking about. No, hold on, bro. You damn right I'm conservative. Because in a conservative's mind, ain't shit given. You got to go take that shit. And I'm a man. Competition. You want to complain about living range? A damn corporation is not responsible for your living. You are. You want to make a living range? Get off your ass and go compete and work. In America, I'm reading you to the list. The regulations that are there, the different departments and acts that are passed to prevent corporations from doing those illegal practices, right? Antitrust laws. So he left the damn chat. Oh well. The most prominent method of regulating large corporations. This is called the antitrust laws. The most prominent method of regulating large corporations, aiming to ensure fair market competition by prohibiting practices that create monopolies or significantly restrict trade. Doesn't Bill Gates get in trouble for monopolizing a lot of Microsoft stuff? Same thing with Apple. Federal Trade Commission, a primary agency responsible for enforcing antitrust laws, investigating potential violations, and taking actions against companies engaging in unfair business practices. Right? Department of Justice, the DOJ, also plays a significant role in enforcing antitrust laws, often pursuing legal action against companies suspected of anti-competitive behavior. So there's laws to promote healthy capitalism, right? Because I agree with you, capitalism by itself without regulations can be unhealthy, right? But now when you put certain laws in place and then now you come up with something to enforce those laws, it creates healthy capitalism and healthy competition. So now it promotes private, and I spoke to this earlier, it promotes the private individual, but it puts regulations on him so he's not doing unfair things. The problem is that you got to enforce these laws. Sherman Act, a foundational antitrust law prohibiting contracts, combinations, or conspiracies that restrain trade, including price fixing and market allocation. Clayton Act further expands on the Sherman Act by addressing specific practices that may lead to reduced competition, such as mergers and exclusive dealing arrangements. Right? Let me look up what exclusive dealing arrangements is. Oh man, I'm gonna really look up into these things. Anything I don't like is everything I don't like. You damn right. An exclusive dealing arrangement is a contract between two businesses that restrict one party's ability to deal with others. It even gives an example. A manufacturer might only deal with a distributor if the distributor agrees not to sell products from a manufacturer's competitors. That sounds like what Sony has been doing. That sounds like what Sony has been doing with a lot of games that it has over there. An exclusive dealing arrangement. That sounds like what Sony has been doing. Like with the Predator Hunting Grounds that recently released on the Xbox. Sony made a deal with them to not do business with Xbox, or make it exclusively to Sony. It's funny. So there's laws on the books to prevent unfair, unhealthy capitalism. Don't get it twisted. Capitalism needs regulation and rules to the shit. So that shit like Europe over there in the UK don't happen. Right? So let's continue. Marx argued that all history was history of class struggles, and that working class or the proletariat would inevitably triumph over the capital class, the bourgeois, I don't know how you say that, and win control over the means of production, forever erasing all classes. Do you know what? The reason why Karl Marx wants to erase all classes and make everything equal, because now if there's a better standard up there, if there's a standard that I have to work up to, it's going to be a reflection of me being loser and why I'm being mediocre. There needs to be classes. There needs to be an alpha better than the betas, because it's not going to push the beta to try to reach to the alpha status. That's why the black community in a lot of Caribbean countries and in America don't progress or go anywhere. They stay broke. This is why I don't like communism or Marxism. Because in the black community, the fucking gangbanger is equal to the goddamn dude who went to college. The 304 who's selling her box on the damn corner is equal to the lady or the good chick. The bum on the street is equal to the 9 to 5 nigga. No. That's the black community needs a class. This is why the rapper or the entertainer is seen as better than the brother that owns 5 businesses in his community, but you don't know who he is. This is why black men pick wrong type of women, because he think that the 304 is equal to the lady. This is why black folks want to stay on welfare programs and continue to be losers, because there's no class of winners for them to look up to, because everybody's looked at as on an equal plane. That's a no. Hold on 1 second. Cooking some turkey. Give me 1 second. I'll be. All right, I'm back. Right? That's why Marx wants to eliminate class, because it fits into that whole equalitarian type of thing. The only problem or logical flaw with Marx's theory, he's still putting power within the government. So there's still a government that's over the worker or over the people, that's controlling where the money goes and controlling where the wealth distribution goes. So there's still somebody above, a class above the workers. Even though he's trying to eliminate class, according to the Marxist theory or communism, there's still somebody above the worker distributing wealth to the worker and regulating the worker. So there's still a class, even though he's trying to eliminate class. As long as there's somebody that have power over you, that's a class above me. The difference is, with a capitalist society, the individual has a power to fight back against another individual. Under communism, all the power for you to fight back is taken from you by that one state or government. This is what I'm talking about, why there's so many government regulations under the Democrats. They are socialists. Have been. Let's keep going. Marx and Engels themselves didn't consistently or clearly differentiate communism from socialism, which helped ensure lasting confusion between the two terms. Exactly. The difference between communism and socialism. Under communism, there's no such thing as private property. All property is communally owned, which that is feudalism. Communism, there's no such thing as private property. All property is communally owned, and each person receives a portion based on what they need. A strong central government, the state, controls all aspects of economic production and provides citizens with their basic necessities, including food, housing, medical care, and education. All right. So now you, the people, are depending upon your success as the people is dependent upon that government, and that government can do what they want with your damn thing. But by contrast, under socialism, individuals can still own property, but industrial production or chief means of generating wealth is communally owned and managed by democratically elected government. You can do that under capitalism. All right, let me look at this again. By contrast, under socialism, individuals can still own property, but industrial production or chief means of generating wealth is communally owned and managed by democratically elected government. Let me tell you something. You see, Karl Marx, what he was doing to try to get his socialism kicked off, his Marxism kicked off, right? He was using capitalism to generate his wealth for his thing, and he damn near bankrupt his family. I think his brother was helping him, or some type of family was helping him, because that right there sounds like capitalism. Why the fuck would you need socialism if you already have capitalism doing that? No, no, a government should not have no business in managing me and my wealth. No, no, no. Because now the government still has power over my wealth. The government still has power over my property, even though I own it. And you can't give every citizen what they need, because every individual citizen has different needs and wants. And each citizen progresses at a different rate than the other. This is why you cannot be equal. There's no such thing as equality. Every human being as an individual is going to progress differently than the other. And every human being has different needs. There are human beings that are taller than some other human beings. There are human beings that are fatter, skinnier, shorter. Some human beings are prone to certain fevers. So how do you distribute something equally to people, to a very diverse people? Even amongst black folks, you're not monoliths. You got some black folks that got what you call sickle cell. So how do you distribute Medicare or education or food or basic necessities to citizens who are individuals? Only the individual knows what they want. Another key difference in socialism versus communism is the means of achieving them. In communism, a violent revolution in which the workers rise up against the middle and upper classes is seen as an inevitable part of achieving pure communist state. Socialism is a less rigid, more flexible ideology. Its adherents seek to change and reform, but often insist on making these changes through democratic processes within existing social and political structure, not overthrowing the structure. In other words, you want to work with capitalism to push your socialist agendas, which is what we saw during the presidential election. So what I see is that socialism is playing like it's not rigid. It's playing like it's not being a threat, because that's how, it's like how a parasite will hide itself in your food to get into your belly or to get into your body, and then eventually grow and become something dangerous to you, right? And like I said, Karl Marx damn near bankrupted his family for him to try to get socialism off the ground. And a lot of times socialism goes into communism, because as I said here, Another key difference in socialism versus communism is the means of achieving them. In communism, a violent revolution in which the workers rise up against the middle or upper class is seen as an inevitable part of achieving pure communist state. Now, let's start on something. Has the people in communist China rose up against their government? No. You know why? That communist government over there in China, they know that. So guess what they do? They put certain things in play to prevent their citizens from rising up against them. But if you're in a capitalist society and you're giving the worker as the individual the opportunity, not equal opportunity, the opportunity to get his own money, his own wealth, his own success, to revolt or rebel against that government. Now you got to remember, Karl Marx is coming from the UK. That's where he's getting his this from, a UK's perspective. He's not coming from a United States, an American Western Hemisphere perspective, where in America we have regulation and rules to promote healthy competition and healthy capitalism. This is UK he from. So now if you're a communist state and you're controlling, isn't Germany the UK? Let me look it up. I don't want to say something wrong. I thought Germany was the UK. Well, Germany is socialist anyway. Germany is UK. Sidebar topic. You can't really trust Google, bro. Oh, so I think Germany. Okay, so Germany is not part of the UK, or is it? Let me see. So here, the relationship between Germany and the United Kingdoms has been complex and long-standing, with the history spanning of hundreds of years. Oh, it's not part of the UK, United Kingdoms. Okay. Okay, so it's by itself. Okay, so that's the. So then tell me how come is Australia part of that? Because Australia is still ruled by constitutional monarchy. Australia. So I got to do my home research on European UK history then, right? I'm only studying America because I'm in America, right? I'm only saying that um, the commonality between a lot of those countries in the UK and Germany, or places like Germany, because they're socialists, if the communists are in control, or socialists are in control of the distribution of wealth of the worker, and what? Okay, so I fucked up. I'll show it. Show it. Is that all right? Hold on. Let me see something. I want to read a passage here to give me a reference point first, right? Forgive me, I have ADHD, so it's like my thoughts bounce around my head. So I'll be on one thought, thinking one thing, and then I'll see something else, think about that thing, and then it'll just lose me, and I'll forget it. So let me stick to this topic right quick, all right? Um, Another key difference in socialism versus communism is the means of achieving them. In communism, a violent revolution in which the workers rise up against the middle and upper classes is seen as an inevitable part of achieving pure communist state. Socialism is less rigid, more flexible. So okay, so that's referring in the working class rising up and overthrowing the middle and upper class. Let me ask you a question. Has that ever happened? in any communist country, whether it be China, Vietnam, or any of that? I don't think so. Like, how did the prime minister of China, how did he get to his position of power? With communism. Because over there, I don't know what province it is in China, but I saw something where you needed a face scanner or fingerprint to get into your damn apartment. And if China decides to put y'all niggas over there in China on curfew, you on curfew. Like what we saw with Australia during COVID, where people were just entering people's houses and snatching people's children. That communist society over there in China is very oppressive against its people. Why are not the workers rebelling against that? Because they can't. Over here in America, under the capitalist society, you can vote people out of office. You can impeach people. You don't see people trying to impeach Donald Trump. They should be impeaching Joe Biden because he damn near almost started a war with Russia over there. And we still have until all the way till January. So we don't know what old Joe, Sleepy Joe, and 304 Kamala Harris is going to do. Is do it. But in the American government, in our system, the power is within the people. And the people speak with their vote. We could choose who we want to lead us. We could choose the regime. And then there's things in our Constitution that allow the people to rebel against a tyrannical government. See what I'm saying? Whether it be capitalist, communist, whatever. But you can't do that over there in China. So with communists, with communism, you defeat the purpose of why you wanted communism. If you're saying that capitalism is bad and that the working class is going to violently rebel, but by you creating a communist state, you're doing the same thing that you claim capitalism is doing. Because any country like Fidel Castro, Cuba, or China, go over there and try to revolt. Be over there and try to revolt something over there. See what happens to you. It won't make it very far. But let's keep going. In Karl Marx's 1875 writing Critique of the Gotha program, Marx summarized communist philosophies in this way: from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. By contrast, socialism is based on the idea that people will be compensated based on their level of individual contribution to the economy. That is capitalism. You could do that in a capitalist society. How come you don't see that going on in Cuba? And Cuba's supposed to be socialist. Like I said, Karl Marx went bankrupt, or he bankrupted his family because he needed capitalism to fuel his ideas, or fund his ideas. So that's the hypocritical thing about Karl Marx, is that he was preaching socialism, but he was still using capitalism. But this right here, based on the idea that people will be compensated based on their individual contribution to the economy, that's what capitalism does. That the individual who's working to get money from a corporation, I am now going to take that money and go purchase a certain service or goods from a small business, from a grocery store, who are also corporations. Then I myself can gain money from that corporation and go start a business for myself. Now, obviously not everybody can be a business owner. You're going to need some betas or some Indians to be working. So there's going to be some certain people in society that are going to be workers. But you could be a worker and work yourself up to middle class. But now if I go to the middle class and you're not going to tax me, the middle class, remember a trucker making six figures is the middle class. 9 to 5 guys just working a trade skill is middle class. Once you touch 80 to 100K and above that, that's middle class. And if you're making 80K to six figures, you're doing something, some idea you have, some kind of work input, you're contributing to the economy of society. You're getting paid for the level of experience and your level of qualification. Like if you're a trade skill person or you're a construction worker or you work in STEM or you're a doctor, you're contributing to society and society's paying you back for your contributions. So that exists in a capitalist environment. Or it's not, so it's like, they're acting like socialism is bringing something new. Now, watch this. What's democratic socialism? Democratic socialism is growing U.S. political movement in recent years. Lands somewhere in between social democracy and communism. That's a fucking problem. Like communists, democratic socialists believe workers should control the bulk of the means of production and not be subjected to the will of the free market and the capitalist classes. What did I say free market was? Free market is determined by the buyer and the seller. Who's the buyer? Me. The consumer is the buyer. Who's the seller? The person I'm going to consume from. Who's the supply and demand? I demand something. The one who's the seller supplies the demand so I can buy from the seller. The free market is the people, the same worker. Let's go here. The bulk of the means of production and not be subjected to the will of the free market and the capitalist classes. But they believe their vision of socialism must be achieved through a democratic process rather than revolution. See now, if they do it through a violent revolution now, the people are going to immediately respond to it, attack it, and destroy it. It's like now, it's like me on the street. If somebody's going to try to fight me on the street, I see you coming, so I'm going to respond to you quickly. As opposed now, if I'm on the same street now, if somebody's going to sneak up on me and stab me with a knife, I didn't see you coming, versus you now putting your hands up. So what socialism does is saying this is a softer, more manipulative way we're going to flip and overthrow capitalism, as opposed to fighting capitalism head on, which is going to cause some problems for them, right? All right, so let's look up capitalism, right? Capitalism. What's going on here? All right. Capitalism. Which is funny to me is that I hear talks of China moving toward from a communist thing to a more capitalist society, and Japan doing the same similar thing. Capitalism is an economic system where private individuals. My cat walked across the damn thing. Just disrespectful. All right. Capitalism is an economic system where private individuals and businesses own the means of production and operate them for profit. In the capitalist system, the following characteristics are present. Private ownership. Individuals and business own capital goods, and the government does not own the means of production. Right? Now, I, the private citizen, right? I own the means of my production. I can dictate how I produce things. So a worker can become a private, or can work his way up to becoming a private owner. He can have his own means of production, producing things. as opposed to somebody not controlling how I distribute or produce what I produce. Individuals and businesses own the means of production and operate them for profit. In a capitalist system, the following characteristics are present: private ownership, individuals and business own capital goods, and the government does not own the means of production. So now the working class or the worker can work himself up to becoming a private owner, a small business owner, sole proprietor, or a LLC. He can own his own means of production. Free market. Prices and distribution of goods are determined by supply and demand in a free market, rather than by central planning. Let me look up what central planning is. All right. My fault, fellas. The internet went out for me, so I had to go get it back. Central planning is a system where a central authority, like the government, makes major economic decisions and coordinates the direction of the country's economy. It involves planning, pre-planned studies and forecasts, setting goals, and establishing priorities, implementing and issuing orders to businesses about their production and investment plans. No. All right. Watch this. In theory, central planning allows government to use all resources for the public good without wasteful duplication. However, centrally planned economies have not performed as well as decentralized systems. For example, the Soviet Union and other Eastern European countries abandoned central planning in the late 1980s in favor of a market economy. Why? Because under a free market economy, you determine the distribution the and how your business operates, as opposed to a mad dictator like Stalin dictating how you produce over there in Russia. So now, watch this. Communism or socialism, if they're controlling the distribution and they're telling your business how to produce things or controlling your production means, and they're controlling all your resources and they're setting goals for you, right? They can still do things to overprice the worker, to oppress the workers of that system. My cat walking across the screen. Hold on. Come here. If you want to walk on the screen. That's Rogue. What's up? What's up? It's Rogue. No way. Anyway. Now, if you have a government that's dictating to you and making decisions how your market is supposed to run and how you're supposed to participate, you could be like Fidel Castro over there in Cuba and overwork your workers, still oppressing the workers. Where as opposed, the workers can now work themselves into a better position. It's not like when you're working at a Costco, you can't become the manager at that Costco depending upon your work ethic. It's not like if you're working as an employee at McDonald's, you can work yourself and learn that business and become a what you call, what's that shit called again? A franchise owner. You can become a franchise owner at McDonald's. From being a basic employee, you can level up to a manager. You can level up to a supervisor, and then one day own your own franchise. You could do that in McDonald's. That's why like, this is why central planning or socialism is stupid, because socialism doesn't give you the opportunity to work yourself either into a better position or to being your own boss or being a boss. It keeps you at an equal playing level, which is why the black community hasn't been able to progress, because there's a lot of people dictating the market of black folks and how black folks should do business and how we should. This is why a liberal can be brave enough and bold enough with their communism to tell black men what to do and how to do it and how to operate. This is why the black community is struggling, because there's no hierarchy or there's no class here. Well, there's a hierarchy. It's called your black woman is God. or your black woman is the overseer. Anyway, let's go back to the previous thing I was reading. Capitalism. Competition. Firms are free to enter and exit the markets, which maximizes social welfare. Limited government role. The government protects the rights of private citizens and maintains an orderly environment that facilitates proper function of markets. So, the private citizen is me and those of you who are watching, the worker. So just like child labor laws or labor laws. Hold on, let me look up labor laws under capitalism, right? And I think I read some of the laws that protect it. Labor laws. Labor laws under capitalism. Under capitalism, labor laws are designed to regulate the relationship between employee and workers, aiming to balance the need for profit with the protection of worker rights, often acting as a mediating force in the inherent conflict between capital and labor, while simultaneously attempting to maintain social stability. Within the capitalist system, however, critics argue that these laws often prioritize the interests of the capital over the workers, limiting their effectiveness in addressing exploitation. Key points about labor laws under capitalism. Central conflict. The core tension in capitalist labor is managing the inherent conflict between employers seeking to maximize profit by minimizing labor costs and workers seeking fair wages and working conditions. Now, I do agree with certain things, like if you're going to have a capitalist-run society, you have to have a balance between the employer and the worker, right? Now, this is where you cannot be taxing the employer, who could be a corporation, because now if you're overtaxing the employer, to maximize his profits, he's going to cut labor costs, right? And this is the issue that we're having with the illegal Mexicans or the Mexicans coming out here in America, because they're willing to work for low wages. Now, I'm in the construction industry, right? Because I'm a construction worker. I have my OSHA 30, my SST, my scaffolding. I have my silica awareness. So I'm a construction worker, right? Basically. The problem in the construction industry now is that you have certain contractors or private contractors that will hire Mexicans because they're cheaper because they're willing to work for cheaper wages than the homegrown American citizen, right? So now, say you're a trade person. Now, I learned this the other night on a panel that I was on. There was a person there that was saying because of his experience, they will not hire him. They will hire somebody who has less experience than he does to do the same work, because they can pay the person with less experience less money, as opposed to if they would hire him, they would have to pay him more money, which is reverse what you call reverse competition, right? And that's because the employer is trying to seek to reduce labor costs, which is unfair, because if I now doing the work and I have more experience than the other guy, competition says you should hire me first because I know what I'm doing. I've proven that I'm the best on the block. But now, because you don't want to charge me the money I want, or the money that I am, the type of money that I've earned or entitled to, because you can earn your entitlement, right? The thing with entitlement is that you can earn your entitlement by working for it, right? It's when you feel you're entitled to something you didn't work for or earn, right? So now, instead of you hiring the biggest and the best at the game, you're now going to hire somebody who's less qualified now for cheaper. Which is probably why they want to get rid of DEI, but that's another show, right? So I do agree that there needs to be a balance between the employers and the employees, so that the employees can get a fair, entry-level shot in the game. But you cannot blame that on capitalism. You have to blame that on the Democrats like Bill Clinton, who had a NAFTA agreement that took away a lot of jobs from America. You have to blame that on Joe Biden that's been taxing the American people and taxing the so-called rich and the richer corporations. Then now, because you're taxing them, they have to cut those labor costs. And I just saw that somebody what you call laid off a bunch of workers. Who was it? FedEx. FedEx laid off I forgot the amount of workers they laid off, but they laid off a lot of people. What you think that is to do? Cut costs, labor costs. See what I'm saying? Role of regulation. Labor laws establish minimum standards for wages, hours worked, safety regulations, and other employment aspects, in attempts to mitigate exploitation and maintain a productive workforce. Labor laws often facilitate collective bargaining, allowing workers to negotiate with employers, to unions to achieve better terms. Limitations and criticism. Market forces. Critics argue that even with labor laws, the free market dynamics of capitalism can still lead to worker exploitation, particularly in situations with high unemployment or low unionization. Employer power. Some argue that labor laws are often skewed towards employers due to their greater political influence, allowing them to limit worker protection. Right? That's a problem. Right? Evolution of labor law. Labor laws often evolve with the changing economy conditions and social movements, with periods of increased worker protection followed by deregulation depending on the political climate, which is called social. So now they want to regulate people. Whereas if it's a Republican climate like with Donald Trump, they deregulate things, right? Minimum wage law, setting a minimum hourly wage that employees must pay their workers. Overtime regulations, stipulating additional compensation for work exceeding standard hours. Child labor laws, restriction on employing children in certain industries or age groups. Workplace safety standards, like your OSHA 30 or your SST. Regulation designed to protect workers from hazards in their work environment. Rights to unionize, laws that allow workers to form or join labor unions to collectively bargain with employers. My problem with the unions on your job, which is probably why Donald Trump wants to get rid. I don't know if he wants to get rid of the unions or he's trying to crack down on them. When you're working at a job, it's like you're forced to be part of that union. Like you have to pay union dues. It's part of the contract, which I don't like. I don't like that you're not going to take money out of my pocket forcefully, you know what I'm saying, for your union. And I don't have a choice, which is something I don't like. Now, I get it, like union jobs, like for construction workers and stuff, right? Construction workers could use a union. You work a certain amount of hours in the construction industry and you get a union job. But your union now protects you. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with certain things with a union, a union can protect you. But it shouldn't be something you force on somebody. It should be a choice that they want to do, right? Because now if I have the ability to choose a union, I could do my research on that union. And that union now has to compete for me. Right? Which I wish under the capitalist society it would set something up where just as I'm competing to get a job at a workplace, that employer has to compete for my labor. That's actually a good idea. I believe just as I, the worker or the laborer, has to compete to get that job, that employer has to compete for my labor. That would be a more fair and balanced thing, right? Um, let's go back to capitalism. Profit motive. The central feature of capitalism is the motive to make a profit. Private property is a linchpin to capitalist economies. Without laws guaranteeing private ownership, capital owners have little incentive to deploy their capital into the economy. Governments and capitalist economies typically impose laws and regulations on companies to promote public good and protect it from worst impulses of capitalism. So there's things in capitalism that, if enforced, like I said, it promotes healthy capitalism, right? I don't see anything in communism that will regulate. Let me go look it up before I misspeak. Law, laws, regulating communism. Oh, there's laws that outlaw it. The Communist Control Act of 1954. The CCA banned outright the Communist Party of the United States to prevent communists from holding office in labor organizations. You know why that is, right? Because those communists on labor organizations, they were violently. This is why they had to rebrand it as socialism. Advocates for classless society in which all property and wealth are communally owned and instead of being owned by individuals. No. Because all the countries, whether it be from the UK or China or in South America, like that's why the Venezuelans are trying to flee over here. All of them are communist countries. Venezuela. I don't want to hear no pro-black or pro-righteous motherfucking nigga tell me about communism or Marxism or socialism. Fuck out of here. Black people, we have become losers. Well, yeah, losers. So because you can't learn the game, now I will agree, right? Because of a lot of the racist practices in America, it gave black folks a bad taste about capitalism, right? But even though Jim Crow sought when black folks were practicing capitalism, they did pretty damn well, especially black men. It wasn't until Lyndon Baines Johnson came through with the damn Civil Rights Act and the welfare state program that black folks became socialists and Marxists. But they were doing better under a capitalist patriarchal traditional household during Jim Crow's out, which is funny. All right. Let me read some of the Marxists that invaded um, black culture, right? Communist civil rights leaders. Now, this is why the civil rights movement was targeted by the FBI. The Black Panther Party, they were socialists. Socialists. Black Party for Self-Defense was founded in October 1966 in Oakland, California by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, who met at Merritt College in Oakland. It was a revolutionary organization with the ideology of black nationalism, socialism, and armed self-defense. Socialism. Edward Du Bois was a socialist. Let me look up what Marcus Garvey was. Marcus Garvey, socialist. Holy shit. This is why the black community in America did not like this is why they did not like Marcus Garvey. There's no evidence to support that the view that Garvey was ever sympathetic to socialism. While he was living in the US, he strongly opposed attempts to recruit African Americans into the trade union movement by socialist and communist groups. And he urged African Americans not to support Communist Party. But yo, my brain is going all over the place. Trade union. Yes. The Communist Party, USA, and its allies played an important role in the United States labor movement, particularly in the 1930s and 1940s, but wasn't successful either in bringing the labor movement around to its agenda of fighting for socialism and full workers' control over industry or in converting their influence. Bruh. Are unions in construction socialist? In many countries, unions are tightly bonded or even share leadership with political party, intended to represent the interests of the working class. Typically, this left-wing socialist or social democratic party. Oh shit! So, ooh, so we're not going. But the thing is, the trade unions. The trade unions have a socialist communist origin. Let me go back to Marcus Garvey. Because Marcus Garvey, he's like most Jamaicans are, they have a conservative mindset, right? They're about doing for self and not relying on people. And W.E.B. Du Bois, he was a socialist, I think. Now it's funny to me that black folks like to complain about the small hats in the community, but you allow and how white people are racist, but the NAACP and Black History Month are created by those same democratic white racist small hat people. That's yeah. I'm gonna do a separate subject on this one. W.E.B. Du Bois. Let me find out that a lot of these pro-black organizations had communist origin or socialist origin. W.E. Du Bois joins the Communist Party. In the end, communism will triumph. I want to help bring that day. The path of the American Communist Party is clear. It will provide, oh my goodness. That's why they don't like Jamaican niggas. Because typically Jamaicans are conservative in mindset. So now, because a lot of Jamaicans have a lot of traditional conservative ideas and principles, when they come to America and they see the liberal black American, opportunities given them for them for free, right? And now you got to understand, in Jamaica, you have to you eat what you kill or you eat what you delete. So you have to go out there and get what you want. In Black America now, or in America period, but Black America, welfare programs, DEI, these things are given to you. So now if you're a Jamaican or you're Caribbean Black and you're coming to America and you have a conservative mindset, from your position, you're looking at the Black American as lazy because there's opportunities here for them to take, but they're not taking advantage of them. And then now when a Jamaican comes here and he takes advantage of those opportunities, the Black American looks at that Jamaican as if he's trying to take their job from them. But he's just taking advantage of the opportunities that you have here, that you're not taking advantage of, right? But Marcus Garvey having a conservative mindset, but W.E. Du Bois being of the Communist Party, and now Marcus Garvey telling African Americans not to join the Communist Party and to stay away from that party. That's what the rift was. It wasn't about Marcus Garvey talking to the Ku Klux Klan and none of that. It's about Marcus Garvey not supporting or directing African Americans towards the Communist Party. And a lot of the NAACP have a lot of communist civil rights leaders that's over there. A lot of the white folks that's over there are communists or socialist people. A lot of the small hat people are socialists that's over there in those civil rights pro-black organizations. Because remember, the UNI, let me go into the UNI. Oh, I found another topic for a video tomorrow. Let me see his UNI movement. Let me see this. Now, I studied Marcus Garvey back in the day, but at that time, I wasn't old enough or wise enough to understand certain things. Now, the difference between the NAACP, NAACP stands for where this Negro at? The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Colored people. Colored people is vague. It doesn't specifically mean Negro or Black or African American. Let's look at the UNI. Oh my goodness. So, the United Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. That's what the UNI. So this organization, the UNI, is specific for African communities, not NAACP, that's for colored people. Marcus Garvey thing was specific to African communities, Negro improvement. Remember, Negro in Spanish means black, right? So this is specifically for African Community League, and it's a league. A league. You know what a league is? A league is like a elite group of people. League. and it's specific to the black population in every nation, right? As opposed to the NAACP, that's for um, the advancement of colored people. Take a Black Laws dictionary and go look up what the word colored means, right? Even outside of the Black Laws dictionary, what is colored people? Asians can follow under colored people. Mexicans can follow under colored people. So colored people is not specific to Negro or African or black communities, as opposed to Marcus Garvey, well, his thing was the UNI. It's specific to African communities, and it preached black nationalism. I gotta do this topic tomorrow. How Marxism and socialism helped to destroy black America. You watch. I'll make that title tomorrow. And the thumbnail's gonna be ill. The thumbnail's gonna be immaculate. Huh? Let me see this. Right here. Rayla, Marcus Garvey. I'm trying to see. The politics of Marcus Garvey. It's not difficult to see why at particular junctions of African American history, many blacks believed the ideas of black nationalism held great promise and power. It is precisely the viciousness and pervasiveness of American racism, which has led many to consider the ideas of separatism. One such period followed the First World War, which led to the rise and hopes of blacks. Some 360,000 blacks had entered military service and many had migrated to the North in search of higher paying jobs in the war industries, hopes for a better life, and had been raised. After the war, instead of having those expectations met, blacks met with violent racist reactions. In addition to race riots in the North, blacks were pushed out of better jobs they had held in wartime and were systematically excluded from unions. The great northern slums grew and grew. It was in this context that the ideas of Marcus Garvey struck a chord with hundreds of thousands of people. Garvey born in Jamaica in 1887. Dude, 1887 was the year in Black America, or in America, where the 1887 Compromise took place. That is crazy to me, right? Marcus Garvey then went to London in 1912. In his 2 years there, he met up with a number of nationalists, followers of Sun Yat-sen of China and others, and he has heard such slogans as India for Indians and Asia for Asiatics. Struck with ideas, he endorsed a nation of Pan-Africanism, whose chief slogan was African for Africans at home and abroad. Dreams of black ruled Africa inspired Garvey. He saw a new world of black men, not peons, serfs, dogs, or slaves, but a nation of sturdy men making their impress upon civilization and causing a new light to dawn upon the human race. After a brief return to Jamaica, Garvey moved to the United States, and in 1917 set up the New York chapter of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. UNI was meant to unite all Negroes people of the world into one great body to establish a country and government absolutely their own, and to establish a universal confederacy among the race, to promote race pride, and to administer to and assist the needy. The most important focus of the UNI was Black Pride. This program of activities include marches, mass meetings. It also had newspapers, Negro World. Oh, it had a newspaper called Negro World? That's crazy. Which by 1919 had become the most widely read black weekly paper in the United States, if not the world. That's why I hate Marcus Garvey. His shit had weight. Your shit didn't. And because he's Jamaican, now if Marcus Garvey was Black American, these FBA niggas would accept him. But because he's a Jamaican nigga, and they would have to admit that, oh shit, we got our ideas from Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican nigga. They want to use the fact that he had a meeting with the KKK to discredit his work, while using the principles of his work. But anyway, in the first few years of the UNI, some of its leaders were socialists. Several later became communists. The slogans and paper positions of the group were left-wing, in that they stressed not just separation, but full equality for human beings. And in that, they called for an active resistance to racism and injustice. The catchphrase, which captured the imagination of many struggling for a different world, was "Up, you mighty race." In a period of blatant racist reaction, this was a radical slogan indeed. But Garvey was not himself a socialist. He saw socialists and communists as his temporary allies, and the left-wing slogan and positions as a way of organizing larger numbers of people into his movement. For Garvey, the bottom kind was separation, and his vision was not even of black socialism, but an African empire to be run by himself and others. The UNI phenomenon was very short-lived. Founded in the U.S. in 1916, it reached its peak in 1920 with 300 to 500,000 dues-paying members, and by 1922, it was shadowed of its former self. In 1922, it was a shadow of its former self. The reason for its decline had to do with both context of the movement and its content. First, there was a decline in the ferment among blacks following the war. Blacks became more beaten back than angry. So sustaining a movement grew more difficult. In terms of the movement itself, it provided inspiration for many, but failed to provide any real direction, except for people who wanted to be among the first families to move back to Africa. Garveyism provided no real solution. Another factor was harassment by the government. As early as 1919, the government investigation of Garvey and the UNI began, and it took heavy toll on the movement. And then there was the fact that many people did feel swindled when all the facts about Garvey's Black Star Project surfaced. After a long investigation, the US government arrested Garvey in 1922 for using the mails to commit a fraud in February 1925. He was sent to jail for 5 years, and in 1927 he was deported to Jamaica. Oddly enough, he never went to Africa. He died in London in 1940. To many whites in the US, Garvey seemed to be a clown. But Garveyism was first genuine mass movement among American blacks. Garvey captured the imagination of many blacks for whom the American dream was a dirty joke. So, to FBA niggas, you say that Marcus Garvey's movement didn't hold weight until he came to America and you supported him. But Marcus Garvey was a spark that gave your FBA African Americans life. He made you have pride in yourself. He gave you a movement to believe in. But whatever. I'm gonna end the stream now, because tomorrow I want to dive into Marxism, communism, and how it got into the black community, and why did it get into the black community, and why the black community was a vehicle for communism, right? Man, I think I know why, right? But in conclusion, capitalism is the best way to go. Marxism, socialism, which leads to communism, all these things puts the power into the government themselves and not into the individual people. Capitalist society, when regulated properly and those rules enforced, is healthy. The problem with communists, there's no healthy way to regulate that, because the government is the one dictating and controlling the distribution of wealth and property, which is not conducive to human beings, because human beings as individuals, we all have different needs and wants and aspirations. And with communism or socialism, it doesn't promote the individual growing beyond and growing up beyond the government. For example, it doesn't give the individual to be like Elon Musk, where he's richer than Donald Trump, richer than people in the government. See what I'm saying? So, no, capitalism is the way to go. You know what I'm saying? The only issue is that human beings get greedy. That's the issue. It's not capitalism, it's human beings. Right? And communism, the framework of communism, is to govern and have rulership over people. So you can't say, okay, well, that same logic of it not being capitalism is it being the human beings can apply to communism. Not really so. Because of the structure of what communism is. The structure of what communism is it dictates to the individual, the private person, or how to operate and what to do. As opposed to capitalism, the person can be in control of himself, right? And become his own corporation, right? And you can put regulations in capitalism to protect the worker and the private citizen. So, in conclusion, capitalism is the best thing for America. It's the best thing for black folks. It's that black folks got to figure out the game and learn how to win, right? And you got to kick a lot of this Marxist, communist bullshit out your psyche. But anyway, this is Kid Shorty Gaming Nation. I'm out.